You got it right. I'm Megan Murphy. I'm the former editor of Bloomberg Businessweek. But for most of my career, I actually was a banking correspondent for the Financial Times. So I'm so delighted to be here to talk about this, because a lot of people talk about fin, a lot of people talk about tech, a lot of money going into the sector, and not a lot of people understand it. So I'm thrilled to be here today with three other people who know a lot more about this than me. So I'd love to call up on the stage Sophie Heller. She's the COO of BNP Paribas Retail Banking and Services. Eric Gilmore, the head of pre-sales at DAON. And Stéphane Vie, who's the CEO of CADRE DE VIE. And we're going to talk a lot about this sector right now. So thank you so much for coming up. And please do ask questions. We're going to try and leave the last 5 minutes for questions at least. So just before coming on the stage, I think it was interesting that Alex said he's never written a check. I wish I was in that situation. But Sophie, you said just before we came on the stage that you've been in digital banking since 2000. That's 18 years. We all know how much the sector has had to adapt. We all know about redefining what it means to be a banking customer. Tell me what you're leading and how you're leading change at BNP Paribas to really adapt to the digital transformation that's swept over financial services.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Our industry, banking industry, is facing three major challenges. The first one is new competitors. So we have telco, we have big tech entering financial services. Most importantly, we have customer expectations that are changing very fast. We had an example just before. And you and me are using the digital services every day, more times in a day. And that sets the bar for what we expect in terms of customer expectations. So this is the second reason. And the third reason is that the pressure in the industry are really under a lot, the margins are under pressure for society regulation, the consumer also, that is not ready to pay for some of the services it used to pay before. So all of this calls for a very big transformation, and really for us, the battle, the customer experience is really the new battlefield.
So when we talk about that as the customer experience being the new battlefield, you just mentioned something I think is so key in fintech, which is that there's a generation of clients, there's a generation of customers who, I face this in my own industry in journalism, who simply won't pay for certain services that they had in the past. So we see competition going in so many sectors. In putting the customer first now, what are they expecting for you to deliver, both in a mobile platform, both in an old sort of what we call an analog platform? What are customers looking for you to deliver? What do they need to have now?
I think that I would select four items that seems really very relevant for banking industry. The first one is personalization. I think the one-fits-all doesn't work anymore. We all have a different relationship to digital, to mobile. We have times where we want to talk to someone or we want to be independent. That varies between people, but that varies also across time. So there may be moments where you want to be perfectly independent and you're just fine with the mobile, but some other moment, if you buy a house for the first time, or if you're preparing your retirement, you might be or you are into a divorce, a very specific situation, you might be very happy to call with someone and have really a human conversation. So this is the first one. The personalization is also driven by the fact that we are used to have specific personalized notification from Amazon. We are used to have things that are extremely tailored to us. So this is the major, I think, change. Then we have the mobile, as you mentioned, and mobile is not only doing the mobile banking, but we can really see that mobile is going to become the corner of the relationship with the customer for all channels. So we'll see that more like a center for the omni-channel conversation that we'll have with the customer. Then there's really more expectation also about transparency. Transparency goes with the digital, so people want to know exactly what the value is that they get for the money paid, but it's also about tracking where a process is. So you get used to have that with the order tracking system. You have started to apply for a loan. You exactly want to know exactly at which point your process is. And finally, instantaneity, because digital is very quick, so you expect also your bank to be very fast and very quick. So these are only four, but as we can already figure out with a couple of examples, it dramatically changes the way that we need to develop the solutions for the customers.
Stéphane, I want to bring you in here because we're looking at an example where, as we talked about and as we mentioned, there's a lot of competition between existing incumbents in the financial services sector and new financial technology companies. And there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen in terms of the established incumbent sector, but also with partnering with Fintechs as well to improve the customer experience, to add on the customer experience, and where they can work together. And you have an example that have partnered with BNP Paribas and working together, and I want you to talk a little bit about what you're doing at CADRE DE VIE.
So CADRE DE VIE, in fact, is a startup which deals with the moment of life. And the moment of life of a user is the ecosystem where you have the customer journeys of each big companies. So in fact, there is a customer journeys at BNP Paribas for people wanting to buy their home and then to take a loan and a mortgage. And we bring to BNP Paribas and to the customer of BNP Paribas all the information that they need in their moment of life, which is, I am a father in a family, I want to move home, and I have to think about finance, but also about housing, about advices, and about good deals, because at the end of the process, I don't have enough money to get the home of my dream. So I have to invest in a kitchen, etc. So it's very down to earth, what I'm saying, but that's the vision of the question that BNP Paribas asked us, help us to give a global vision 360 degree for our customer BNP Paribas in their moment of life. So that's the base of the work together with BNP. And fun enough, BNP Paribas and CADRE DE VIE, we are in the same size, in fact. There are around roughly 200,000 people. We are 8 people, but we work together very well. And there is a partnership which is kind of, let's say, weekly pleasure, because we work on a weekly basis with the teams, and it works, and things happen. And that's what is difficult sometimes with big companies and startups. Let's make things happen. With BNP, we have a lot of things happening.
I know you have a video that you want to show as well to sort of walk us through how it works and how you partner as well. But did you just say you were 8 people?
Yeah. In fact, we are a little big company. Many startups, they hire tons of developers, which are roughly 1/3 of my age, so people I don't understand. And in fact, they pay them very expensively, and they have no loyalty. The decision we make with Raphael, our CTO, and with our associate is that we are a core of very experienced people. As you see, I'm pretty experienced. And in fact, we hire and we contract with very skilled companies. So we have subcontractants, and if all the team of the startup takes the car to go to Paul Bocuse to have a dinner because we are from Lyon, and the car has an accident, BNP Paribas will keep with the service because everything is under contract, under SLA, in subcontractants. So in fact, we have the security of a big company with the structure of a small company and the cost of a small company.
Eric, you have worked on a solution that we just talked about this, about an analog world, but one of the most frustrating experiences I think everyone in this room knows is trying to remember your password for everything that you have. Mine is, I shouldn't say this, but it's actually the same for everything. But you are working on a technological solution in biometrics, which hopefully will make passwords in part obsolete in terms of banking, and also have partnered with BNP Paribas. So can you walk us through a little bit about what you guys are doing at DAON?
Yeah, absolutely. So at DAON, we're a software company that's in the business of providing what we think are innovative ways to do secure authentication, but that's also fast and convenient for customers. So we're working with BNP Paribas as basically co-creating a mobile biometric authentication solution as an alternative to things like having to remember long passwords, having to carry several tokens around on a lanyard with you. And DAON is actually doing this for a number of companies around the world, really. So a lot of them in the digital banking space and in payments. But BNP Paribas is the first to do this with us in the wealth management space, which we're very happy about. Okay. So what we've done is we co-created with BNP Paribas Wealth Management a service called My BioPass. And it's an authentication service for customers of the bank, and it basically means you can access your account, you can authorize your payments, and you're doing it only with your phone and your biometrics.
So we were talking about this backstage in terms of how it works, and one of the things that I'm particularly interested in with DAON is that it's a two-factor authentication. And when we talk about two-factor, it's kind of a bad word because I always think about my Google Mail and how it sends me a text or something, but I was saying to Eric, well, iPhone penetration is so huge in America and in Europe, actually in Asia and other, in India and other parts of the world, other kinds of phones are much more common. So I was asking Eric how it works with two-factor authentication to do fingerprint and face, so how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we can run a short video that will run in the background while I talk about how the app works. And it also highlights some other wealth management innovations that are going on in BNP Paribas. But essentially what we do is we register the client's fingerprint, their face, and their voice. And then we use that in conjunction with their smartphone. So something they carry around all the time in any case, and things that are of them already. And that's what we use to authenticate the customer when we need to identify them, when they want to access their private space, or where they want to confirm a transaction that they're doing. And really, we see it as part of dealing with the battlefield that Sophie talked about. It's about customer experience. Sometimes you can think of this as being all about security, and of course that's vital for the bank, and it's the basis for everything. We're always using at least 2 factors of authentication with customers. But actually the experience is fast, it's easy, and secure at the same time. And I suppose the results speak for themselves in that what's happened is we've rolled it out now in Luxembourg, so it's available to wealth management customers there for a year now, and it's going out to other countries around the world in the coming weeks. And what we found is once customers have tried it, they do not want to go back to what they had to use before. So it's obviously very satisfying for both the bank and for ourselves.
Sophie, I want to bring you in on that because what he's talking about is so crucial to people with all the concerns about security and access and improper access. I actually just got my wallet stolen, and within an hour they had rung up $10,000 worth of transactions on my cards. But talk about how that fits in security and what Eric's doing at DAON and how it fits in with redefining that customer experience.
I think that the video that we are going to see after is a very good example because it combines all the different things that we said before. So you will see that it brings a really very user-friendly but very secure way to authenticate. And I think that it's important to say that biometric needs to be a choice of the customer. So in any case, the customer always has another option. So it's not something that is forced to him because it's very personal. But at the same time, the experience, as Eric said, and we had other experience in other countries, that once you use it, and I think that people with an iPhone keep using the Touch ID, it's so practical that you don't want to use anything else. So we'll see that, but we also see that a very concrete illustration about personalization, because you will see how we use all the data and the specific profiles of the customer to receive really this conversation. So we'll have an illustration on that, and we finalize with the client feedback. And now winning this, the battle of the customer experience starts with putting the customer feedback at the center of everything we do. And we have this really nice example that we can see everything on the same video.
Stéphane, from your perspective, you were talking about this earlier, but buying a home can be one of the most stressful experiences of anyone's life. If people haven't done it, it actually is the worst experience, I think. And simplifying that is something that, again, as you're saying, is integral now to improving the customer experience and giving them a more holistic experience that they can have from the bank. But you are really a true startup, 8 people. A lot of startups, when I talk to CEOs, both at big tech and at, let's call it little tech, they sometimes express concerns about partnering or working with a bigger institution. They're afraid about safeguarding their technology. They're worried about, frankly, losing employees sometimes. They're worried about keeping their identity, keeping that innovation. And one thing in talking with BNP is how they almost treat these kind of interactions as a startup themselves. And in that partnership, I'm curious just to how how you came to this relationship and how it's worked out in terms of being able to leverage what you guys do.
In fact, we have no problem of keeping our personality because CADRE DE VIE has been founded by people very experienced. I had the chance to head the leading network of real estate agencies in France for 8 years, ORPI. So, and all my associates are pretty experienced as well, so we know what we have to do. We have set up a competitive advantage in the, if I go back to 30 years ago in the courses of strategies, there is a competitive advantage very strong in CADRE DE VIE, that's the DNA. And after that, BNP Paribas selected us through the hackathon, which was a very efficient system for BNP to select startups useful for their business all across Europe. And then we work with BNP on a very defined strategic line. Everybody in the bank is aligned of a strategy under the management of Sophie, of THIERRY Laborde mainly. And in fact, everything works very well and people have, let's say, people in BNP Paribas which are working in the customer journey are very proud of that because they know that they are taking their bank many steps ahead. And we are a little ingredient of the customer journey, a new version. So in fact, everybody is aligned and it's very easy. So startup do not change big company strategies. If somebody here thinks that, there is people in white with very good product which are calms them down, okay? Big companies have a strategy, startup has to be an ingredient and has to be, let's say, a little, I don't know the name in English, but in French we say la mouche du coche, so I let you look in Google translation. But in fact, basically we working because everybody is at its place. We have a strategy, we have a roadmap, and we work and we deliver. That's very easy.
So I just want to take this moment and remind people if you have questions to send them through because I have an amazing, I told you this before this panel, whenever I do panels, the questions from the audience are always way better than my question. And I do have an amazing question, so I'm not going to I'm not going to ask it yet because it's so good. But Eric, I also want to turn to you with DAON. Similar question. Your experience partnering as opposed to, keeping the integrity of the project, but also being able to leverage it in a much bigger way, much more rapidly by partnering with someone like BNP.
Yeah, I think the experience of working with BNP, what we found is it's actually, they had gone to the trouble of making it very different from what we see in some other banks that we work with. Really, they had a small focus team working in an agile way, working almost like a startup within the bank, and using that to invent the product, to design it, to understand the technology, and most importantly, to evolve it based on the experience of the customers who are using it, giving it to customers and evolving it from there, which actually works really well for us as a company. We can better support the bank when they're able to move like that, but also obviously produces a better result for the bank as well.
So Sophie, when we go back to the battlefield and wait, I hope we can get the videos. Are we going to do the videos? Are the videos up there? I'm not sure if they are doing the videos. Well, we'll hopefully get to see the videos. But good, okay, there we go. That is, okay, so can you talk to me?
A video of what is now online with the BNP Paribas France, Ma Banque website. So in fact, into this website, you can select, let's say, finance information, or you can choose your house. So you have what you see, which is a selection of, let's say, criteria that you know, the city where you want to live, the number of rooms, the surface, minimum, maximum, square meters. You can select how many rooms. So all those things are traditional, but you see that the housing are on the maps with the exact places. And here you can select where you work. So for example, you would put your work. This is in the center of Lyon, the beautiful city. And you can select to go there in 30 minutes in public transportation. And then you have also a kid which is in a school. So you can type the address. This kid will go to school by foot, obviously, in 10 minutes. And that is your second place of living, which is key in your selection of housing. And you can see that you have two areas, one blue for the job, one orange for the kid. And hopefully there is a pink pin which shows a flat which meets exactly your personal criteria. This way of looking after a house is new in France, and BNP Paribas developed that with us. and it's our technology and their customer and experience. They can, the user can put the finance criteria, which is the money they get, the length of the mortgage, and in fact they can have a user account where they store all this information, and this is compliant with GDPR, obviously. Happy birthday, GDPR. And in fact, it's finished, but it's a very good service. You should try it.
We won't have a question on GDPR, the topic of the week. But you also have a video. Are we going to get to? Can we show Eric's video as well? Because I want him to be able to walk through his product as well. If we can show that, can we show that one? Can you guys show it?
Thanks.
There we go.
Thanks, Megan. So I'll just talk briefly about this first section. This video talks about several different innovations that are being done by BNP Paribas Wealth Management. And this is essentially this customer using his unique key. When he wants to do an action, he uses his face to get access to his account. And he can find out something about a stock that he's interested in. And now when he wants to do something like that's a higher risk, that he wants to buy something, he'll use a different method of authentication. So it means we can satisfy the security needs, but actually still make it very easy for the customer. So I think these other projects, please come and talk to us on the BNP Paribas stand about some of the other initiatives in wealth management.
And this is about the personalized notification we were talking before.
Definitely. I love it. You can buy Starbucks stock with your face and your voice in your car that someone appears, hopefully someone's driving that car, or oh, there is, or it's automated. Okay, well, Sophie, I do want to get to questions, and I'm going to give this one to you. But if you don't want to answer it, you can pass. But we're talking about fintech here today. There's another word we've also said. Another big hot topic is obviously blockchain. So this is kind of my favorite now panel because we're getting to talk about fintech and we're talking about blockchain. And this question is, how can fintech leverage blockchain technology as well? You want me to go to you with that one?
You mean for the fintech or for me?
Exactly.
Because
for the bank and for
fintech.
fintech. For the bank.
Well, we have a couple of projects that already have been issued. So we have two areas in international payments where we already use the blockchain technology, and also in trade finance. So let's say that in the commercial business, we have already identified usage that are really promising. On the retail side, the most promising use case is around KYC, and also the possibility to exchange, to facilitate.
You want to just tell this audience for people who don't know what KYC is?
Know your customer, so you need to, with the regulation, you need to identify very properly the customers when they come into relationship with you. And the fact of having exchanging information with third parties, certifying the identity and the controls that you've done on the customer, could leverage the blockchain technology. So we are looking at that at the moment. But we already have applications that are running on the commercial side where it was really more, the advantage was much more relevant.
So this next question, we've talked a little bit about this, but Stéphane, this one goes to you. You showed the video there and how it works, but this is a question that's saying, how is BNP Paribas really integrating your product into their website? How does it actually work in terms of how it's presented, in terms of your mark, their mark, et cetera?
In fact, we started with a design thinking phase where BNP Paribas had a project manager. He gathered all, let's say, the services into the bank, I mean, legal, compliance, marketing, business, IT, etc., plus us, and we worked to establish the best customer journey possible. And then we made several trials, and then it was online, and then we keep on, let's say, try and correct, test and learn. That's really a startup-like working process, but with a lot of people, because BNP is very complex, and you have to have many people from many services on board. And the only question is the speed, and the only answer is weekly meeting. So it's not very technical, but weekly meeting is very efficient.
I think about the brand, one thing that I can say is that we have really two different cases when we partner with Affected. We have partnership, like CADRE DE VIE, where they really bring a solution because they have this expertise. We are not a real estate in the retail, we are not specialized with this. So it has really a lot of sense to keep their brand because CADRE DE VIE is specialized and they're identified as really niche player on helping you to find the right home. If you look at fintech that offer technology or capabilities, then it's different because you leverage their capabilities, like and their experience in the biometric, but you don't want to expose the brand. So I think for me, it's really where the brand brings also value because it brings credibility. So what you're offering to the customer, we should keep the brand. When it's about capability, then we should use our own brand.
Oh, that last question just came up, and that's also a good one. That's a great one. So let's actually close with this one.
Megan,
But Stéphane, go first.
Just one point, because I'm reading the question
Yeah.
to Anna. In fact, we work with API. So we can do separate website, but also we have a complete set of API and SDKs which enable people to integrate our technology.
Sophie, let's close with you on this one, because unfortunately we're out of time. I could talk about this all day, but do you see that top one? Would you work with loss-making startups? I mean, can you really define that as loss-making, or can you say, I think that question is better phrased as risk. You know, what's the risk and reward? If someone comes to you, how much is the bank willing to bet with new technologies? How much is the bank willing to really say?
Distant future, or do you think that it is not tomorrow, but it's already today, that we all become actors of our own medicine by storing and sharing more data?
It is not today, it was yesterday. So already all the patients use Google or internet to know about the health, but the health is not only the disease, the health is the global health, sexual health, social health, emotional. So we need new tools to imagine the medicine differently, and already we use Espace Santé Numérique to begin to understand better our patients, and only to be focalized on the disease.
We have already changed.
We have already changed.
Thierry, in your business, which is clinics, you work for 17 years at Michelin, a very industrial company. Then you created a startup, and then 6 months ago you moved to ELSAN. Just 2 or 3 figures about ELSAN so that we realize what it is. It's a private clinic group in France. How big is it?
Absolutely. ELSAN, we feel well here because that's the world of startup here in VivaTech. And actually we feel ourselves as a startup. Just 5 years ago, our turnover was less than 500 million euro. Last year it was more than 2 billion euro. So we are growing very, very fast. And today we operate in France more than 120 private hospitals. We employ more than 25,000 employees and 6,000 medical doctors. So we are a startup in the healthcare industry.
And growing fast. How is technology changing the daily life in hospitals and clinics?
You know, our purpose at ELSAN is really to offer everyone high-quality healthcare, both innovative and with a human touch. And digital technology really offers a unique opportunity to place back the patient at the center. I think Nathalie and Alain, they have said that as well. I mean, it's all about the patient.